hadn't showed up at all.
All right. Welcome, everyone, to episode 6 of the actual play, Star Trek Adventure actual play, Star Trek Valhalla. We are currently waiting the captain. He is in a very important meeting with the Admiralty right now and should be with us momentarily. And rather than delay the start of the session, I thought, why don't we just jump in? Shoot the breeze, shoot the proverbial. Has it been 30 seconds? It's been 30 seconds. Shoot the proverbial shit, as it were, and then talk a bit about what got us into role-playing games in the first place. Because I think there's value in getting to know your players a little bit more, getting to know some of the folks that you're watching on a weekly basis, and understanding what drives them to this passion. So, as is tradition, I'll go first because I'm the game master. I like to hear myself talk, but obviously I'm Dare Wolf, and I've been playing role-playing games for almost 25 years since I was a wee little tween. And what got me into role playing games was actually, I'm going to be honest, I think it was my mom's resistance to me getting into them. We used to go to, I think it was Barnes and Nobles at the time. Maybe it was Borders. I think Borders. Which one went out of business? Was it Borders?
Orders.
Borders. It was
Borders.
Borders bookstore at the mall by where we lived. We would go to Borders bookstore. We would sit down and we would just like look at books. And they had the second edition D&D like core rulebook, like the player's guide, I think is what it was called. And I would just always like my mom, I'd be like, "Oh mom, I'm gonna go look at some fantasy books." Ha 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 ha. And then I'd sneak over to the game section. And I'd be like, "Oh, look at all these cool dwarves and wizards and shit." And then she'd find me and she'd be like, "That stuff's the devil." And I'd be like, "No, it's not, mom, it's just pretend." And she'd be like, "No." And it was and I ended up going there with a friend one time and buying the core book and hiding it in my bedroom, and then like reading it like religiously, like front to cover, back and forth. And then I set up a like an actual presentation for my mom with like one of those like old whiteboard things that you do like science with. I'd be like, "Here's what D&D is." And I sat down, I was like, "Mom, this is what Dungeons and Dragons is. It's a fantasy game, it's pretend, it's no difference in playing Monopoly and pretending to be like a slumlord guy. I don't know, whatever Monopoly is, but it's like no difference, right?" And I sat down, I was like, "Let me just go play with some friends." And I promise, like if I get weird or I start, bringing home pentagrams, then you could tell me to stop. And she was like, "That was actually really well thought out," and she let me start playing. And I've been playing ever since. I did 2.0, 3.5, mostly fantasy. Fantasy is my bread and butter. But like anything you do, you've got to challenge yourself to be better and to improve at your craft, right? So for me, running a Star Trek Adventures game has been a true, true, true challenge for me because I don't know the setting as well as I'd like. I love the series, I love the show, but it's challenging me because all of my roots go back to fantasy. That's a little bit about how I got into role playing games, and it's been up, downhill, left and right, fantasy dungeon since then. So to infinity and beyond. I don't know. I'm mixing all my genres, but it's fine. But I'd love to hear from who wants to go next. Let's hear from who wants to go next.
I'll go next.
Charles, I love it. Let's go, man.
So yeah. So I since I'm such an old man, my role playing started in I first heard about Dungeons and Dragons in the late '70s, and I went to a library and there was an older kid there who was a few years ahead of me in school. And he said, "Hey, have you heard about Dungeons and Dragons?" And I was like, "No, I haven't." And so he had a piece of paper and he started to explain it to me by giving me a scenario that you were in a dungeon hallway and that there was a door in front of you. And he started just explaining how it's totally up to your imagination how you interact with this door. Do you turn around? Do you go through it? Do you listen? Do you break it? And all this stuff. And I was hooked. And so from there, I bought at that time, there was this purple box set of it wasn't even advanced Dungeons and Dragons yet. It was just this,
That
I
eight?
guess they
No,
call it
not
the
just D
basic
and D,
set.
like the first edition.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And the rules were not really well written, so I really had no idea what was going on. But ever since then, I was stuck. And like you, Dungeons and Dragons was my main deal. And then until I guess the late '80s or early '90s, World of Darkness came out, and I was
Mhm.
really into that. Really Really like
Did you
that.
do
And
LARPing?
so I did some dungeons, some fantasy LARPing.
Yeah. Can
I'll
I
have to
admit
share
something?
pictures with you.
Can I admit something? I did a little bit of Vampire the Masquerade LARP for like a weekend, and
Nice,
I
nice.
never went back. It was
Oh,
weird. So
oh,
it was so edgelordy. Like I
oh,
can
wow,
see how it could be
yes.
fun, but it was so edgelordy. Everyone there was emo. I had a couple friends that did it, really loved it. You do everything with like rock, paper, scissors or something, and I
Yes,
was just like, this is weird. Like it, like I don't know. I was like, I'd rather just have pen and paper, but I could see the
right.
appeal. I also have some friends that have done some actual LARPing, like fantasy LARPing, and I had an invite to go, and I chickened out, and I regret it to this day. So maybe one
Oh,
day, maybe one day, I think that'd be a lot of
There's
fun.
a Vampire the Masquerade LARP that meets every Sunday at this gaming club that I'm a member at, and it is so cringy.
Oh, that's too
oh.
cringy for me, and I'm not. Hey, whatever gets,
Yeah,
whatever makes
I
you
mean
happy,
whatever
whatever
floats your
gets you
boat,
into
but it
it,
is
it's all
not
good.
my bag.
Definitely not my scene. Definitely not my
Well,
scene. It's all good.
I tell you, the Dungeons and it wasn't technically Dungeons and Dragons, but the fantasy LARP that I was involved with was I'm from Baton Rouge, and so half the people from Baton Rouge, half the people from New Orleans, and we'd meet in the middle at this camp at a state park, and we'd have about 50 people,
Oh wow.
all dressed up. We had cabins and stuff that were supposed to be the village, and we had these swords that were PVC pipe with 2 layers
Foam
of
wrapped around
insulation
it.
around it,
Yes.
and the duct tape. But I tell you, it was fun. It
Absolute
was
riot.
really.
How long did you guys play for? Like, is it like over a course of a weekend? Did you stay for like a week, or like what would
You
you guys
would
do?
go. It would start Friday around 5, and it would end Sunday at noon.
That's awesome. Were there like
Yeah.
like storytellers that were like or like
Mm-hmm.
arbitrate? Okay,
And
that
you
makes
had
sense.
NPC volunteers and stuff. So
That's actually
really
amazing.
cool.
That sounds
Really
super
cool.
fun.
Yeah.
Well, if you guys ever get it up and running again, I know where
Yeah.
I'm
Oh,
heading.
yeah.
There you go. That sounds amazing. You know who I want to hear from next? You know who I really want to hear from? I really want to hear from Drew.
Uh, I'm not quite as old farty as Charles, but I'm still a bit of an old fart. I got my start in the 90s, in the early 90s, in middle school. My best friend, his older brother was into D&D and World of Darkness. He was in like this ever running World of Darkness game. And so like he had grown up hearing his brother talking about it, and then he was telling us about how awesome it was, and we were all into like comic books at the time. So he just made up like how to play like D&D with comic books, with the comic books that we had like a comic book club that we made our own comics. So we all played the characters that we were writing for the comics. The way we wrote the stories was we did like a D&D game. And it was kind of a choose your own adventure kind of thing. We didn't have dice, it was like 6th grade. And we didn't really know what we were doing, but my friend Matt, he would arbitrate these games, and he'd be the storyteller, and then we'd tell him what our characters did, and then he'd be like, okay, well, you can do this or you can do that. And then like if it was more narratively appropriate or whatever for this outcome to happen, he'd choose which one he wanted to happen, and then we'd move on from there. And we just kind of we played that all through middle school, and then once we got to high school, we started getting into like more of the World of Darknessy stuff. I started playing D&D. We went to different high schools, so he kind of got into more of the World of Darkness and kind of went off on his own, and we'd get together and he'd make up his own games. We'd play for like a weekend. And we'd sit down at the table and he'd make up a role-playing system like on the spot, like no books or nothing. It would just be like, okay, this week we have strength, sanity, intelligence, and dexterity, and those are your stats. And like roll that up, and then your character can do this, this, and this. Like, what kind of character do you want to be? And then we just go through and we play for, hours and hours and hours. And at the same time, I joined a gaming group in high school, like at my actual school, and we'd play second edition D&D during lunch. We actually played Birthright, which is like the
Oh.
Pathfinders.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's Pathfinders, or it's D&D. It's the original like Kingmaker from Pathfinder.
Yeah.
But it was its own setting. And if you think the rules for like kingdom building were crunchy in Kingmaker, dude, this was the height of second edition's
yeah.
like
Super crunch.
crunchy rules.
I laugh whenever I hear anyone say that, like, and Pathfinder is pretty crunchy, but I laugh at it because I have dabbled in AD&D, and second edition was super crunchy too, like super crunchy.
But it
and
was
it's just
so
like,
good.
It was so
It's-
good. Because when you
it's
figured
still-
it out, it was just like, yes, let's play
It's
this
still
game.
to this day, I think second edition is my favorite system. Just the way it worked with itself, and the convoluted way that the rules worked. Some things were roll up, some things were roll down.
Mhm.
You never, like, none of it made any sense, but it made sense when you like knew it and you played it. And I just found this love for the game, and
It's awesome.
eventually like found like a like an adult group to get together and like play with every week. And
Hell yeah.
I think I've played almost every week of my life some sort of RPG since the 90s, and I'm like 41 years old.
Brilliant. Absolutely
Been
brilliant.
playing
Awesome.
forever. It's great.
Yeah.
Dude, I love that part.
I love it.
About,
I love it so
about
much.
creating his own system. Like that is impressive as hell.
It was amazing to sit down to, and he
awesome.
would have nothing prepped either. Like
Yeah.
he'd just be like, all right, this is a story we're going to tell, and it's like a zombie story. Like, we're playing zombies this week,
And here we
and
go.
it was us just going through, and like he'd have the whole thing, just like he'd just make it up on the spot. This is my best friend. He's my tattoo artist. Like,
Hell yeah.
he is the most aggressively creative human being I've met in my entire
Seeps
life.
out of his
This
pores.
guy is
It's in his
yeah,
blood.
just every second that you spend with this guy, he's just
Brilliant.
working. He's
Absolutely brilliant. I love it, man. I love it.
Yeah.
Next up, you know who I'd like to hear from? I'd like to hear from Eeny, Meeny, Miny, Symbol. There it is.
Well, so before I go into my defense of LARPing,
Let's go.
I was starting by saying that I did start on AD&D Red and Blue Box 30 years ago, and legit in the school yard, with friends, not knowing what we're doing, just creating characters and having fun. And that was where it started. But where my passion for it really grew is when World of Darkness was introduced. When I finally got to be a werewolf, a vampire, a mage, all the crunchy stuff.
Yeah.
Because fantasy was okay,
literally crunchy.
but literally. But yeah, fantasy stuff was okay, but never really resonated that much with me. I'm more of a sci-fi. I'm more of a dark world, kind of guy. So to get to play those. I have a friend that was the vampire guy. I have a friend that had the werewolf book. I had the mage. Mage was so convoluted. It was amazing. And then getting to Star Wars and even Star Trek, the original book from '98, stuff like that. But depending on which time period it was and with which friend group, it was in and out. But in college, or at least the Quebec version of college called CEGEP, because we're special here.
Don't get Lovecraft started on Quebec. Don't get Lovecraft started on Quebec. Hey, Lovecraft, I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. Don't even get me started.
I live in Montreal. I've lived here almost all my life. I am from Quebec. I love Quebec, but goddamn, anyways.
Hilarious.
So I got introduced to LARPing, and although I did a few fantasy, we didn't call them LARPing, but we did do fantasy LARPs. The real meat and potatoes was with the vampire, and God, I put so much of that. And God, was it ever edgelordy?
It's so edgelordy.
I
And like if you're
loved
into
it.
that, it's fine. It's totally fine if you're into that, right? It's totally
And-
fine
and-
if you're into that. It's just like for me, that's not my. I
Yeah.
think you said your wheelhouse, Drew. Or it's not your bag potato
course.
chip. Like it's not my bag, and some people it
Of
is. And
course,
there's
and-
I don't shame.
I
not my
don't
thing.
shame anybody, and there's people that I still talk today.
Except people that
from
play
20
Fatal,
years-
they deserve to be shamed. They deserve to be shamed and cast into the fires. That's all I'm saying. No.
Okay. But for
Hard line.
me, LARPing was a great way to test out social interactions. So that was like the real reason I love LARPing. Yes, videos.
Absolutely brilliant.
So yeah, and I'm really happy that he found people to play Star Trek Adventures, because my friend group, they don't jive with the role playing anymore. They're board games now.
You know, it's
Well,
just
you
the
have-
brilliance of.
Yes.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, Charles. Just real quick. That's the
I was just
brilliance
gonna
of
say
online.
you have us now.
Yeah, you have us now. We're your
Yay.
friends.
Yeah.
I mean, we play Hunt pretty much like every other day of the week. We hang out all the time. So like, that's the thing I gotta say. Like with role playing games, if we didn't have the internet, I know I would not be able to play as much as I do. And it's such a blessing. And like with the advent of like having Zoom and be able to see people, it's like the next best thing to being at the table, which I absolutely love. And the captain is here, which is fantastic.
the
Looking
Catane is
dapper
here.
as can be. I hope your travel home was safe. Brian occasionally has to go into the office, and he's got like a crazy commute home, and no big deal. We're just glad that he's here. But what we're doing, Brian, real quick, we're just talking briefly about what got us into role-playing games originally, and we're gonna hear from Mimi next, and I'd love to hear from you as well. But Mimi, what got you into role-playing games?
So I started later than the rest of you. I clearly am the youngest person at this table.
Yeah.
I started in high school in the mid-aughts, since I hear that's how we're saying that.
That's not a real thing.
Mm,
Lies.
so in the mid-2000s then.
Thank you.
I started. There was a group that was at the high school I transferred into midway through, but their game master graduated the year before I transferred, and their group kind of fell apart. But luckily, there were some other people who were interested, and we started playing. It was, like I said, it was very homebrew. We didn't have any books. We barely used dice. We did have maps though, because the one thing you have as a high school student is a lot of graph paper. And we used I'm pretty sure we used like coins and stuff for tokens.
Oh my gosh.
Oh.
So funny you should mention coins.
Yeah.
I used to use bottle caps, and I had a bag of foreign currency that I had gotten from when I did a couple of trips overseas in college, and I would use the different coins of like euros, and I had some like I think like Russian coins, a couple other things that I had, and I would use those as different tokens before I had like way too many minis that I never get to use anymore. It is what it is. Everything's digital, but it's fine. But that is absolutely brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. And last, certainly not least, the man, the myth himself, the dapper gentleman with the sweet hat and the great beard. Let's hear from Mind Over Brian.
Had to figure out where my boom mic was. I also started playing. So I got into role playing games early. I want to say when I was like 11, 12 years old, and played like a little bit of second edition. I had some friends, like very few, who were into role playing games, and like we found a book, and I convinced my dad to like play an adventure with us, and we played exactly one session.
Oh.
And then my dad was clearly not into it. And then it wasn't really until high school when I found a bunch of other nerds in my specialized program for high school, where suddenly it was a bunch of kids like me that I really got into it. So I was there for the switch from second to third edition for D&D, and then we picked up Pathfinder when D&D went fourth ed, and it was,
We don't talk about
it was really cool.
edition.
We like to. I just like to be able to play, to pretend to be somebody else for a bit of time. That's what I like to do.
I will say this. I do want to give slight props to Brian just very, very quick props here. Brian was in, at one point, 3 games that are all happening simultaneously in the same setting, and he did an absolutely fantastic job of keeping his player knowledge outside of his character knowledge. He continues to do so in those games, and I just got to give you props, man. It's the only reason I'm willing to wait for you. No, I'm kidding. I love you, dude. You're the man. Absolutely. But thank you, everybody, for taking a quick moment to share, and thank you, viewers, for listening in. I hope just, getting to know a little bit about what got you into this hobby. I think it's such an amazing thing, and each of us has a unique story about how we got into it, yet we all play the same kind of just, it's about creativity, collaboration, and getting a chance to be someone else for a little bit and see what that feels like. So it's like acting, but better, in my opinion. So just my 2 cents. But with that being said, we're going to actually start today's session, which is episode 6, Big Trouble in Little Osakka. And as we open our scene, we see once again the Ragnar traveling through this dense, nebulous cloud that is the Shackleton Expanse. You can see the ship moving at warp. We see the clouds just kind of brushing past it as though it's cutting through like a ship through ice, traveling through the north. But as we zoom in, we go into one of the officers' quarters, and we see Lieutenant Paris is giving a personal log, I believe is what it is. So, Symbol, Lieutenant Paris, why don't you take it away with this week's personal log?
Computer, start recording. Science officer's log, stardate 571-542.1. I still can't believe we just did nothing. They had warp technology, they asked for help, yet we did nothing. Okay, so maybe they were interpreting things with a religious filter, but they asked for help. Isn't that what Starfleet does? Help those in need. Look, I get it. If we did anything, would have been a mess, a giant pile of tar. Computer, erase that and start recording over from the beginning. Science officer's log, stardate 571-542.1. Captain Traso had an impossible decision to make. I get it. Damn it. Computer, race again. Start recording again. Science officer's log, stardate 571-542.1. I've had to remind Lieutenant Schur for the 3rd time this week that complaining about orange dust clouds on his view screen will not change the fact that we are here to explore the Shackleton Expanse, one orange dust cloud at a time. I understand that monitoring navigation at low warp is not the most thrilling experience for someone who signed up for away mission duty, but Schur is no longer an ensign. He needs to start acting like one. If I hear him complain one more time to Boots or Halleck, I'm gonna have to send him to Krev and have him scrub plasma injectors. Wait, computer erased the last sentence. If he continues to complain, maybe Doc can help me see if a rotation in sickbay might get him to calm down. That being said, he is not wrong. The Shackleton Expanse is downright repetitive. Other than a no longer existing quantum singularity and a pre-warp civilization, there's only hydrogen and other ionized gases. The only thing more interesting than the orange dust clouds are the slightly darker orange dust clouds. Less boring news, our favorite blue computer erased the last sentence. The Andorian in our brig continues to both baffle and annoy. His doc-approved diagnosis has been updated to disgustingly unhealthy. Medically, he should not be alive right now. His vital signs say he has every known malady, disease, and pathogen from here to the Delta Quadrant. Yet, he also looks as fit as a fiddle. After burning himself on the force field of the cell to the point where his skin tone even changed color, he has now opted for a hunger strike, refusing water, food, and even when silent. Sure, the poor crewmen in the section above him are now able to sleep again. Soon, Doc will have to go in there and plug into some nutrients to keep him alive. Although if Krev had his way, I wouldn't be surprised if the nutrients were replaced with warp coolant. Erase that computer. On the other hand, disgustingly healthy Locke is doing everything he can to be useful on the ship. I have him shadowing Ensign Minerva, as she's my resident quantum mechanic expert, and we need to start understanding what is going on with him and the Andorian. And if she can help him out, the more the better. I understand the captain's reservations at giving him full reign of the ship, but everything but the kid tells me that he is Starfleet. If a little young. I do hope the captain finally takes the time to meet with the boy and at least give him a field commission. He's clearly Starfleet trained, and I'd prefer him being busy to idling about. What's that? Oh, I think these notifications I'm receiving on my pad are for Commander Krev, something about replacing too many holodeck emitters. Like half the message is bleeped out and the computer just won't print it out. So I'm just guessing at the point. Something about not mucking up his ship, replacing emitters, whatever. Look, every station manager I've been following up has been assigning people to the holodeck as per regulation. I guess that, it's gone up by 700%. Can't understand that. Look, regarding the Andorian case situation, the official Starfleet stance will remain in effect under the Prime Directive. Even with clear Klingon influence, it's not considered a global enough effect. It was only localized to a small pocket of population. We sent back the 2 Dander guests to their world with a plausible crash site, created a false crash landing with debris, bruises, and all the caboose to help them sell their space flight failure. We can only hope that our guests at this point will not reveal what they actually saw, as Doc did opt to not have their memories wiped. We left the buoy outside their space as a warning to other explorers, as the Expanse has retaken the planet and hit it again. But I have sent all available data to Starfleet Command with a recommendation to send a small exploration vessel to check it within 6 months to a year. Computer end recording, start a new recording. Personal log. It's in Eldon, Paris, 571-542.1. Hey, Jen. Look, I found another recording of Captain Pike from the Enterprise. Stardate's a bit garbled, but I'm pretty sure it's before Kirk, since it's on the Enterprise. Apparently, Pike once stopped a war between 2 factions on the planet by appearing before this summit with, his usual grandstanding, as only, those captains could have in that time. Could you imagine a captain today doing something like that with mom and dad? Like, I need to look up for more recordings with Captain Pike or even Captain Kirk. I need to add those to my collection. I need to find something. Oh, that reminds me. Zed says he's found a program from Earth 20th century. Something about, I don't know, night, heat, Miami, right? I didn't fully understand. But I'm sure it's something that's right up Uncle Tom's alley. Maybe I should get some Captain Proton for Zed. Yeah. Nope, that must be it. Computer and recording.
Absolutely fantastic. Absolutely creative, brilliant. I love the stops, the starts, the recording. What a great look at the Lieutenant Paris. You may have 2 momentum for that delightful opening log. Thank you very much for that. Loved it. So as we pivot out from Lieutenant Paris's quarters, we zoom out of the Ragnar. We once again see the exterior of the ship, the orange gashes, some a little bit darker, some a little bit lighter, as Lieutenant Paris mentioned. But we zoom down into the core of the ship, down into one of the brigs, where we watch as the good doctor is walking into the security brig. Now, Doctor, as Lieutenant Paris's opening log had described, the Andorian has been on a bit of a hunger strike and refusing to talk, refusing to eat, refusing to drink, really refusing to communicate at all. In fact, he's almost been in this kind of meditative, grumpus kind of state. Now, about an hour ago, the security member, the security chief on this particular brig, sent you a message stating that the Andorian in question had asked for you, had asked to speak with you, and said that he would only speak with Commander Ajay and no one else. And if that she didn't come, he would continue his hunger strike. Now, I'm going to assume, being the good doctor that you are, even though he is a prisoner, he's also a patient and one that is asking for your help. I believe you would have traveled to him. Is that a safe assessment, Commander Ajay?
After I took care of whatever else I was doing first, I didn't just drop everything and run down there.
That's absolutely fantastic. So you wrapped up a couple things. An hour and a half or so went by, and that maybe made him sweat just a little bit. But as we zoom in to the brig, security brig of the Ragnar, one of them, this is a private cell. We watch as you walk your way over to, now you cannot see the force field, but you know that it's there. It looks as though it's just this open kind of area between you and the Andorian. The Andorian himself is sitting on the small little bench. And as you approach, he stands up. Now, I want to describe what this cell looks like. Now, if you can't tell, zoom in a little bit, you'll see that there are these almost like claw marks on the walls. Now, what those represent are these scribblings that have been gouged into the walls of this cell. And it just says the same name over and over and over again. It's just Locke, 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 just carved into it in multiple different languages, just again and again and again. And the Andorian himself, his skin has become this, instead of that light, kind of almost soft eggshell blue, has become this dark, kind of like deep sea kind of blue. And as you approach, he rises almost mechanically to his feet and strides towards you. Well, hello, Doctor. I want to thank you for taking the time to meet with me. I hope you are well.
I seem to be in better shape than you are, Commander.
Oh, I'm fit as a fiddle. Fit as a fiddle, Doctor. In fact, my mind has not been clearer than it is in this very moment. I realize the error of my ways, but I also recognize the only one that I can talk to, the only one that I feel I can truly trust, is someone who has, well, dealt with the things that I have dealt with. Maybe not you specifically, but your people have seen the horrors that war can bring about. You've seen the horrors of occupation. You know how important freedom is. Do you not, good doctor?
I think you could safely assume that, yes.
Excellent, excellent, of course, of course. As he's speaking, you watch as his antennas. Normally, the Andorian's antennas are kind of like up and moving around, maybe looking. His are like back and flat against his head. They almost look like they are kind of almost like molded, like they've like fused with his skull. It's a very odd looking sort of thing. But he continues to lean in and gets a little bit closer, just close enough to where if there was no force field between you two of you, he could likely reach out and touch you. But he says, Doctor, may I ask you a question?
Go ahead.
Do you trust your captain? And with that, we're actually going to pivot away from this scene. We're going to pivot away from this scene, and we're going to pivot over to a scene that may seem almost out of place. But what we see is a mechanic's shop. It looks like it might be maybe an old car shop, like an auto body shop. There's a vehicle up on the lift there, and driving in, we see Lieutenant Commander Krev and Captain Traso. And Krev, you had mentioned there was a particular vehicle that you and the captain were going to be working on. So I'd like to just have you describe what is the vehicle that you are driving into this mechanic shop in this moment.
It's actually a Ford Edsel.
A Ford Edsel. I'm gonna be honest, I don't even know what that is. I don't even know what it is.
Oh, it's well known as one of the ugliest cars that's ever been made on the planet.
I love it. Ford Edsel. Edsel? Edsel? Ford Edsel.
Yeah.
Oh god, that's nasty.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm not even gonna bother dragging a token of that onto them. You're just gonna have to use your theater of mind. But so the two of you drive into this shop. Now you are in the holodeck for some much needed R&R, maybe a little bit of just personal time to just shoot the breeze, as it were. Spend some time with your captain. Have the captain spend a little bit of time away from the captain's chair, but I'd like to just leave the scene to the two of you as you pull in. And as you pull in, I'm going to add just one thing. The car makes a and the engine seems to die.
Oh, good. I programmed it to die at some point soon. I was hoping it would be a little bit back there, so we'd have to push it. But at least it finally broke down.
I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm glad we didn't have to push it.
Cap, we need our exercise too. We're getting old.
Speak for yourself. I'm doing fine.
He looks over at the captain, then looks over at his own like rather rotund self, which is normal for a Tellarite. He says, I guess.
So, what are we doing? Are we installing a hover drive or?
No, we're fixing it.
What,
It's
like to continue to consume petrochemicals?
Yeah,
Burn them?
it's a Edsel. I don't know. The humans, they created these automobiles, and they're just stunning. I mean, he gets out and kind of walks around like, dragging a hand over the hood. Just the engineering behind them was so fascinating. They just spewed all of these disgusting hydrocarbons into the air, and they almost ruined their planet with them. But at the same time, I mean, he stands in front of the ugly kind of pig-faced front of the car and just says, "It's beautiful."
Well, the ride certainly reminded me of my first shuttle piloting course in the academy.
Oh no, they're actually supposed to ride like that.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Don't they have any
They're-
hydraulics or some sort of?
No, it's springs.
Is there a manual or something I can look at? Because this
Yeah,
is
there should be
gonna
one in
take
the
forever.
there should be one in the glove box
There's a box in this thing?
in front of you. There should be a button. Hit it, and the compartment will open.
Okay. Ah,
As
just
you,
like popped open.
as you hit the button and the glove box pops open, there is a screeching sound, and the driver's side door falls off. There is a loud clang.
I don't think these systems are wired together properly.
There's almost no wiring in this one, Cap.
Well,
It's all
how do the
mechanical.
doors work then? Oh,
The mention of how do the doors work, the back bumper falls off.
this is intended to take us a while, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, this is what I'm planning for the weekend.
All right. Well, let me get started on this manual then.
And as you guys... Oh, go ahead. Sorry, Captain, please.
Computer, display chapter 1.
And at the mention of computer display chapter 1, the computer does not respond.
It's a book.
Chapter 1.
It's a book, Cap.
I mean, I thought it was unusually thick for a pad. How do I?
Open it. Yeah, like that.
As the captain opens it, the binding in the book breaks and all of the pages spill onto the floor, going everywhere. And with that heavy sigh, I think that's a great moment to pivot away from the holodeck for a moment as we go back over to the bridge. And Ensign Zed, you have been put in command of the Ragnar for the time being, which is I think a great honor. Absolutely fantastic.
Oh,
You've got
yes.
Lieutenant Paris. You've got the good ship's pilot over there, as it were. Let's see, that's Lashir, I think it is, Lieutenant Lashir. And you've got a couple of other, science and engineering officers. In fact, petty officer. You've got the good petty officer over here for Andrea Bronson. She's hanging out, doing her thing. But it's just orange glass, orange gas, orange gas, orange gas. But what I'm going to have you do, Lieutenant Paris, is I'm actually going to have you make a quick control science check. Because, Ensign said, you're looking out at the orange gas. You see slightly orange, a little less orange. Maybe is that pink? No, that's just more orange. Was that blue? No, that's just more orange. But you think you see that the gas is getting a little bit thicker. And you blink, and for a moment, you think you see a kind of almost like an electrical bolt that travels through the gaseous cloud. You're not sure. It's probably just your eyes playing tricks on you. But Lieutenant Paris, you pick up something at your station. It looks like there was maybe a slight energy pulse, maybe a spike in front of you that doesn't seem quite right. So.
And Zed would like to get up and walk over and stand over Paris's shoulder, if that's okay.
Absolutely, that's okay.
Mhm.
I love that. Let's go ahead and do that. It's a good doongle.
So you said control science?
Control science with a difficulty of 1. Difficulty of 1.
Astrophysics?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. All right. I'll take a momentum, get an extra dice, and just for the pleasure of the evening, gonna add those 3 threat to get the bold science run.
Oh,
So you're gonna give me 3 threat.
Yep.
I'm gonna pocket those threat for later use.
You only need to give him 2 threat to get a 4th.
No, I'm gonna
That's
take all
what you're
3.
trying to do.
That's fine. If you want, you only have to give me 2. I'm gonna
All right,
pocket the
2.
2 threat. I'm gonna pocket
Sorry.
the 2 threat. No,
It's been a
good,
while.
good. It's all good.
So
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
You use the momentum and 2 threat.
I love
2
it.
threat. So, but that does give me 2 rerolls, and I'm sure their ship is gonna help me with
Absolutely,
roll
Captain.
there?
Why don't you grab the ship if you don't mind?
dice.
Sensors, what?
Sensor science.
Oh
Well,
boy.
I will be re-rolling that.
There's the 1 success, which is good.
I will be
All right, so you're getting 1
re-rolling that,
momentum back.
Critical.
Let's see if you can
and,
maybe get a critical. Come on.
All right. Control. Science. Submit.
Oh!
There we
Oh, let's go! What a turnaround. I love it. So, as you begin to analyze these readings, Ensign Zed's eyes were not playing tricks on him. You are picking up what looks like it looks like a thunderstorm inside of the cloud. You're getting readings of almost like it looks like lightning strikes or these pulses of energy. And in fact, as you start to analyze these readings, the whole ship shakes as though it was hit by, there's a loud thunderous crack that just echoes throughout the ship. Everyone, including those inside of the holodeck, including the good doctor down in the brig, all hear this crack of thunder, and the whole ship jostles, the inertial dampener struggling to keep up with it. And as you look in front of you, Lieutenant Paris, the orange gaseous cloud starts to darken, and Ensign Zed sees this as well. It gets darker and darker, and on the view screen you start to see what look like raindrops almost, but it can't be rain. You're in the middle of the Shackleton Expanse, but you start to see these flashes of lightning and thunder. And Lieutenant Paris, these readings they can't be right. They simply cannot be right. You are seeing that you are suddenly inside of some sort of thunderhead, like a thunderstorm, and you're picking up rain and lightning and thunder all around you, and there's a strike that hits the ship, and there's a bunch of power spikes all over the ship as well simultaneously. But I'm gonna let you guys take the scene for a moment as you
All
deal
right,
with
Zed,
that.
I recommend shields.
shields, yes. Shields up to whoever's at security.
You know what? You know who should be at security? I think we should have none other than your best friend. I think your best friend should be there. I'm gonna drag him onto the ship there. Danny Bradish should be up at security. I got
Okay.
you, Zed. No, yeah, you got it, Ensign. Raising shields, and he does his
Right.
thing. Yes.
Helm full stop.
and the helm brings the ship to full stop in this moment.
I don't get it, Zed. There's rain. There's rainfall outside.
It, is it possible that our sensor array is malfunctioning?
You see
No.
it drizzling like rain on a, like a window, like on the view screen.
This is like triple checked here. Like, we are in a rainstorm. There's lightning. There's water droplets. There's water going down our view screen. Well, sure. You wanted more excitement. You just got it.
I'm gonna be honest, Lieutenant. This is not what I had in mind. I don't like the rain, and Lieutenant Shear looks a little bit like downtrodden in this moment for sure.
Lieutenant, how wide is this strange disturbance? Would we be able to navigate out of it?
I check my readings. Okay.
With that amazing success, it goes to the extent of your long range sensors. You cannot see the edges, as though you slipped into it, and the area behind you that was Shackleton like Nebula is gone. Now, there was a recent threat that was redeemed in chat that I'm actually going to add here for a moment. As you know, you just raised shields. You watch as this lightning bolt seems to cast itself, like you can see it in the distance in this cloud, and it's like lancing left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, up, down, left, down, and then suddenly it strikes the shields, and there is this bright flash of light. And Andrea Bronson over at engineering says, "Sir, the warp core, it's starting to spike. It looks like it might go critical. I don't know what to do. What's happening? Oh, gods!" And then the ship starts to jostle and shake, and there starts to be these kind of explosions as rocks start to fall, as it were, and panels start to go off, and the whole ship starts to flutter for a moment. Power seems to spike, flicker out, emergency power comes on, and then regular power comes back, but the ship has suffered some damage in this moment. But as that happens, the lightning stops, and you find yourselves simply in the void of the Shackleton, the orange clouds again. This storm is suddenly gone. And with that, I'd like to part away from the bridge for a moment, let you guys sit on that. And we're going to pivot back down to the brig, where, well, the Andorian just asked the first officer, the chief medical officer, a very, very poignant question. How does she respond?
Trust in what capacity?
Well,
As a captain, I certainly trust him.
do you trust him? Do you trust him to do what is necessary to protect the crew?
Yes.
You speak as though you have no doubt in your core.
Sometimes doubting things makes the doubts come true.
The Andorian kind of reels back on his heels at that statement. I suppose you're right, Commander Ajay. What can you tell me of the captain? What can you tell me of how he makes decisions?
If he has time, he asks for suggestions and advice from his senior staff. And if he doesn't have time, then he makes a decisive decision. He understands that sometimes you can't hesitate.
Indeed. Sometimes you cannot hesitate, but what of you, Doctor? Do you hesitate? And with that, we're actually going to pivot away from the good doctor and the Bajorian. And we're going to go back over to the auto body shop, where we see the good captain. We see the chief engineer working on this vehicle, but as you're working on the vehicle, the lights inside of the auto body shop flicker. And then outside, you hear this crack of thunder, and you see a flash of lightning, and you hear a couple of cars start to kind of go off, like maybe some car alarms start to go off in the distance. Hear a couple of sirens, and then a light but steady rain starts to fall just outside of the garage door. Imagine the garage door comes up, gives a little bit of an overhang. You can start to see the water starting to fall, the rain starting to fall outside. But at this point, Captain, you've managed to mostly put the book back together. A couple of the pages are out of order, but I'm going to leave the scene to you guys.
Wow, I must have done a better job than I thought on this holodeck program.
Oh, did you write it yourself? I was going to say these weather effects are pretty good.
Yeah, I don't even remember programming them in. Computer in this ship is twitchy.
Really, I haven't had any problems with it. Seems to be pretty stable as far as I've been able to tell. At least none of the systems that have touched the new device, as it were.
Yeah, well, the new device is the twitchiest part of them all.
Well,
He's,
you interacted with it more than I have, so.
yeah, I think we've come to an understanding.
I wouldn't be surprised. You and most machines come to an understanding.
You got that right. He's like banging on a nut, like the car is like on a on the lift, and he's like trying to wrench a bolt off, hammering at it.
If I'm reading this correctly, if you get that, you're going to be covered in, oil. That's
A whole bunch of oil spills out right on Krev. And as that spills out right into Krev, from the street that is just outside of the shop where you guys are working on this old Ford Edsel, you hear what sounds like heavy footsteps through the wet. So you know that those sounds you'd hear when someone's running through puddles, you hear that kind of the splashing of feet as they run through puddles and whatnot. And appearing in the overhang just outside of where it covers is this woman. And she looks absolutely terrified. She looks completely waterlogged, just completely soaked to her bones. And she looks left, she looks right, and she catches both of your eyes. And she says, please, you have to help me. They're chasing me. Please, you have to help me. And she takes a step just underneath the awning.
I didn't program any people, especially any humans.
Computer pause program.
He's like wiping oil off of himself.
Traso, in fact, it does nothing.
Computer Arch.
No response. Please, they're right around the corner. They have guns. They're trying to take me. You have to help me, please. From down the street where the woman ran from, and you originally heard that, you hear multiple footsteps running in your direction.
Quick, over here. And he like hustles her over to like the bathroom over on the side.
Mm-hmm. She
is
shaking as you like usher her, maybe like just gently grab under her arm, and you are showing she's visibly shaking. She's soaked to the bones, and she looks to be wearing this kind of, it looks very Japanese in make. What, Mimi, you would know this. What's the style of dress that like a geisha would wear?
You mean kimono?
Kimono. Thank you. She's wearing a kimono. Thank you. I'm sorry. Words are hard. But she's wearing a kimono, and she has kind of a shawl over that's very it's very thick, kind of trying to hide herself. And she steps in. You usher her into this back room, and she looks at you, just thankfulness in her face. But as you look back, as you just shove her into this little back area, a few, I hesitate to use the word gentlemen, but a few, well, bird people dressed in what appear to be black suits round the corner and step up to the garage. Each of them is wielding what appears to be a 9mm pistol. And the lead bird, who's the tallest of the three, they have these like raven style heads. The lead bird says, "We're looking for a girl, looking. Have you seen girl, looking for girl?"
Now I'm afraid you must have the wrong garage. It's just me and the old girl here. And then
Saw come this way. Saw her come. Saw her come this way. Where is girl?
I don't know what to tell you, guy. You're welcome to take a look around the shop. My partner's just in the bathroom.
Give me a presence command, difficulty of 2. You do have 6 momentum, by the way.
Yeah, I'll spend 3 of those.
Dun dun dun.
Focus of composure.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Oh yeah, that maxes you on momentum again, which is fantastic. And I want to describe one other thing to you. These gentlemen, these bird men, they kind of look like, well, you might not know this, but to describe the characters, they look like they might be part of a gang. Maybe like Yakuza or something. They've got like bird feathers, but their heads end, and they have like skin, and you see like a bunch of these like very ornate tattoos on. They're just wearing like jacket coats. And the one of them is like, they're holding the guns, not at you, but the one in the center, he looks at you, and his little bird eyes blink, and he says, if you see, let us know. And then the 3 of them run off down the street, just and continue their search for this girl that they're looking for. And I'd like to just pivot the scene back to you guys. What do you guys do?
Asba walks back, sort of backwards towards the bathroom, and then knocks on the door. He goes, "Krev, we're all clear here, but something's going on."
Krev looks at the girl and shushes and opens the door. Yeah, I don't know what's going on.
Oh, thank you for saving me. I didn't know what would happen. They're chasing me. I took the heart. And I have to take the heart. They have him. They have my son. Please, the heart. The heart is the key to saving him. We have to save my boy. Please, you have to help me. Please,
shut up.
Please.
What's the heart?
And she looks very nervous in this moment, and you see that she has this shawl that kind of drapes down over her shoulder and is bundled up, and she was carrying something in this left arm, almost like she's cradling, almost like it looks like she's cradling a child, but you don't hear a baby crying, and it looks to be maybe the size of maybe like a small watermelon is how big it looks, and she's cradling it, and she says, well, the heart is the key. Heart is the key to everything. And with that, we're going to pivot back to the bridge, where Ensign Zed and Lieutenant Paris, the ship's in a little bit of a rough shape right now. And I'd like to know how you guys plan to solve this current situation. Bronson, over at engineering, states, Ensign Zed, we've got power failures and fluctuations on deck 4, 6, 8, 11, 9. Conduit relays have been damaged. We're leaking plasma, and oh no, it looks like the safety protocols are disengaged on holodeck 2. Ensign Zed, that's the holodeck that Captain and Lieutenant Commander Krev are in. You're muted. As is tradition.
Yes. Zed will throw a look over at Paris, and then he'll say, her name is Brunson, correct?
Bronson, yep.
Yeah, Bronson. Bronson, route all damage reports to operations and have them deploy repair teams.
Aye, sir.
Zed to Traso.
Nothing goes through.
Zed to Traso. Computer, locate Captain Traso.
Captain Traso is currently on holodeck 2.
Z to Krev. Z to Krev. Oh, he'll.
Zed, Zed, look at me. Calm down. You got this. You're in command.
Yes.
Deep breath.
Uh,
All right. Priority.
Priority. Let us head down to holodeck 2 and ask Commander Ajay to meet us there.
How about we send someone to fetch the commander and the captain, someone to fetch the doc, and then we can go from there. Right now, you're needed here. You're in command.
Yes, of course.
The mention of needed here in command. The two of you hear, well, a very strange sound. Something that should not be present on board a Starfleet ship's bridge. But you hear a... And staring over towards the captain's chair, you see a tiny black raven currently standing in the chair. It flutters its wings for a moment and then takes flight and starts to zoom all around the bridge, freaking out.
Lieutenant, I'm not the only one seeing this, am I?
No, you're not, Zed.
Right. A thunderstorm in the middle of a nebula, ravens on the bridge. What do you think's going on?
I have no idea, but I will try to scan the bird.
Nevermore. Nevermore. Continues to zip around, and then it lands right above the display of the Intrepid, of the Ragnar, right above it, and it sits there and it just goes, "Nevermore, never Traso, nevermore."
As Paris is scanning it, Zed's gonna stand very close to him and say, "Lieutenant, I know that Captain Traso left me in command, but I think perhaps it was simply to give me experience in the chair. You outrank me, and you have more experience, and you're at Paris. Perhaps you're more qualified to be in command at this moment."
Zed,
Yes.
listen to me. The captain put you in command right now. What I want you to do is calm down. You're the senior officer on the bridge right now.
Yes.
So I cannot take that away from you.
I can give it to you.
That is even worse. Just if you want recommendation, ask for them.
Yes, recommendations. And then he'll look around the bridge and he'll say very loudly, "Lieutenant Paris, recommendations."
All right. Danny, send someone to fetch the rest of the senior staff so that we can get some form of communication going. Is that good enough for you right now, Zed?
Excellent suggestion, Lieutenant Paris. And he's going to go over to sit down onto the in the command chair again, and he'll say, "Ops, please send an engineering officer and a security officer down to holodeck 2. Also, he's make sure that Commander Ajay is notified of the situation."
Hi, sir. Dispatching teams now. Bronson, over from the engineering station, says, "Sir, we've begun repairs on decks 4, 11, and 7, but we're having trouble getting to holodeck 2. It appears that all passageways and turbo lifts, well, this is weird, sir. That can't be right. Sir, it's as if that deck doesn't exist." And with that, we're going to pivot over back to the brig, where the Andorian has asked Ajay once again, a very poignant question, and I'm curious, how does she respond? You might be muted.
Yeah, no.
Okay, just
I
thinking.
am no longer muted, as is tradition. Well, yes, I think I do have hesitations. I'm a doctor. The things I do, if I choose wrong, I might not, rather than save someone's life, I can end it.
And with that, the Andorian, he's been standing there with his hands kind of almost steepled in front of him, occasionally like doing this, very Mr. Burnsy kind of thing. And he widens his stance, he widens his arms, he says, "Then, Doctor, you understand the importance that decisions you make can cost countless lives or save them. That is why I must speak with you. Things have transpired that cost countless lives and must be undone. You understand the importance of those decisions, and I am the only one who can stop what has happened. You must listen to me, Commander. You must hear what I am saying. Your captain does not understand, but you understand. Ajay, you understand because of your people's history, because of your field. You understand the importance of life and death decisions." And as he says so, his hand kind of brushes up against the shield, sparking for a moment. He recoils, and you watch as that there's a little bit of slight blue turns that kind of dark, almost deep sea kind of blue color. And he recoils
Is that
back.
supposed to happen when an Andorian brushes against a field like that?
Are you asking me as the game master?
I'm asking as the medical officer.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, that's what I thought. You seem to be having some issues.
No issues other than being stuck inside this brig, unable to perform the duties that I must perform to undo the chaos that damn man has put all of this entire system through. Forgive me, Commander Ashe. I don't mean to. Forgive me. It's hard to be trapped. I'm sure you understand.
By man, I assume you mean Locke?
He nods his head very slowly and very methodically, and his gaze locks onto your eyes, unblinking, for a solid 5 seconds.
The boy? Or his father?
The boy is simply a byproduct. The sins of the father and all.
You don't hold a person's ill-doing against their child.
Commander, I need you to listen to me very, very carefully. And once again, he gets close. You can almost see his breath. You know that little kind of sparkle kind of you see when someone hits a force field. His breath kind of makes that little fogginess in the force field. The young Locke should not exist. And with that, we're going to pivot back over to the holodeck 2, which may or may not exist. I don't know. That's weird. But we see, once again, back in the auto body shop, the storm has begun to pick up, and it's actually raining very, very, very heavily. The woman has just mentioned the heart is the key to everything. The heart is the key to saving her child. And I'd like to leave the scene to the two of you.
Well, Krev, if you didn't program this, seems like someone's been messing with your program because we appear to be in some sort of adventure novel.
Can we Get in touch with the bridge. Krev to bridge.
Nothing.
Traso to Z.
Nothing.
Computer end program.
Please, there's not much time. The ritual, it happens tonight. Legate Ganek, he is planning to sacrifice my child. He's planning to sacrifice my child to complete his ritual. Please, we must bring the heart to the temple. We must bring the heart to the temple. That will stop the ritual and send him back to the depths from which he came. Please, you have to help me.
All right, do you know where this temple is?
She nods readily, almost hopefully towards you.
Well, Krev, if we're going to help this woman, we're going to need one of those phasers that they had.
I believe they're called pissers. Pissers.
I mean,
Pistol.
phaser, pisser,
Pistols.
whatever.
Pistols.
So here's my suggestion. I'll call that group back over, and then you hit him with the car.
Okay.
All right.
Hold on. I have to put lubrication back in it.
At the mention of put lubrication back in it, you hear this clicking noise from behind you, and appearing out of the dense and thick and heavy rainfall are the three birdmen again. And it's hard to read a bird's expression because they're mostly beak and eyes, but these birds look a little miffed. Their feathers look a little ruffled.
Oh, bird guys, thank goodness you're here. We found the girl you were looking for.
Good. Give us the girl. Take the girl.
Yep, come on in and get her. She's come on and get her. She's being a little resistant, so you're gonna want to get by us.
No, you promised that you would help me. Please, don't let them take me. And the birdmen all begin to advance menacingly towards the girl.
Yeah, Asba backs up, but then gets behind them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the second they're past me, I'm picking up a torque wrench, and I'm just gonna.
I'm a Starfleet captain. I use the thing that Starfleet captains have used from time immemorial. I put my two fists together and I wham on the
Yes! All right. So what we're gonna do is you're gonna get the drop on them because they don't expect this. Okay, they don't expect this. So you're gonna get the drop on at least two of them. I'm gonna have each of you roll a fitness security. Difficulty is normally going to be a 2. This time it's going to be a 1. I'm going to reduce the difficulty for you because you guys are getting the drop on them, and I think the descriptors here are absolutely fantastic. So go ahead and roll us a fitness security difficulty of 1 check.
I'm absolutely spending a momentum.
I love it.
As am I.
So the birdmen move in. You're going to get the drop on 2 of them.
I don't think any of these.
I know. I do.
Unfortunately,
I do not
none
have
of my
a focus.
focuses will apply.
Yeah, I have nothing resembling a focus that'll work.
Boom! They momentum back. Let's go. Okay, so Krev, you lift up this wrench, and as the birdman passes, right over the back of his bird head, you hear a squawk. Falls to the ground, just completely knocked unconscious. Captain, you double fist, just boom in the back of his head. Squawk! Falls to the ground. As they fall to the ground, what's a bit maybe disconcerting is that the suits appear to go completely flat to the ground, and appearing kind of in the middle of the clothing is a tiny little raven figurine that kind of shakes for a moment and then falls to the side. Shakes to the moment, falls to the side. The last raven, though, however, he draws 2 pistols and points them at you. And he pulls the trigger on both of them, firing once at both of you. So I'm going to go ahead and roll him really quick. I'm super nervous. We're going to see what happens. He's going to get 2d20. I'm not going to spend any threat yet. That's for later. Don't worry about it. And he needs to get 2 successes. All right. He's got to roll below a 10 to hit. All right. They're not great. That is a 2 and a 19. Okay. So the 2 is going to hit. And I'm going to roll a D100. High is Krev. Low is the captain. High is Krev. Krev, there is this splitting pain as a bullet rips through your right leg, tearing both flesh and snapping bone. It shouldn't hurt. You're on the holodeck. The safety protocols should be in effect, but you begin to bleed profusely. You're actually going to take 3 points of stress as that bullet rips through your leg. And the bird squawks. Nope, nope, nope. Gotta get you, gotta get you. Squawk, squawk, gotta get you. Gotta take the girl too, take the girl too. Gotta get it back, gotta get it back.
Krev, like on his way down to like falling, is like, eat this, you bird bastard, and he's gonna swing like as he's falling down.
I love it. Absolutely love it. Warp juice and pissers. That's hilarious. Paris. I love it.
You.
Difficulty of 2 on this one. Difficulty of 2. You do have 4 momentum.
Fitness and security. I am going to burn a momentum. No focus.
Oh, and that is a success. So as you go down, imagine this giant wrench, like a pipe wrench. You double hand it over your head as you're falling. Thump, 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 thump. The bird goes, oh crap, thump. And it's just a boom of feathers. The clothing falls to the ground, and appearing right atop the clothing is that tiny little black raven figurine that wavers and falls to the side. The girl looks to you all, looks to the two of you, and says, oh gods, he's hurt. Oh gods. And she steps forward.
Oh yeah, it hurts. Oh god, it hurts.
And begins
I
to
find a
apply
rag.
pressure.
Yeah, I find a rag and tie it, just bandage him up. I have a medicine of 2. So I know basic first aid.
Yeah, go ahead and make a quick first aid check. I like it.
What do you think? Control medicine?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yes, control medicine.
How about composure again?
I'm gonna
as
allow
a
it.
focus?
It's a stretch. I think I'm gonna allow it though. Like Krev is bleeding profusely. Ooh.
Nope.
Ooh. So good news and bad news. Good news is Krev, you do manage to bandage it up. You don't get any of your stress back. You are very injured, and if you take any more damage, you are gonna be knocked unconscious. So just be aware of that and be careful. But with that, the girl, as she leans down to help as well. In fact, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to have her roll a check as well. She got 13 and 19. Unfortunately, 13 and 19 is not good enough. The DC was 11 for her. But the good news is you actually see what she was hiding underneath that shawl. And it looks, well, you know what it looks like? It looks an awful lot like that device that you have in the cloaking room, like a tiny little representation of that device. And with that, we're going to put it back to the bridge, because I think that's fantastic. We're going to go back to Ensign Zed and Lieutenant Paris and figure out what the heck's going on and how you guys are going to fix the ship. So Bronson has just mentioned to you that apparently Deck 6 does not exist. It should be there, but it's simply not there. Every time someone takes a turbo lift to get there, it goes 5-7, 7-5, 5-7. It's like, it's as though it's cloaked or something. It's weird. It should be there, but they can't get to it. What would you like to do about that?
So Zed is kind of pacing a little bit in front of the command chairs. He's thinking. He's talking out loud to everyone on the bridge, and he's saying, "All right, it's as Professor Mox used to say at the academy: a problem well stated is a problem half solved." And he whirls and looks at Lieutenant Paris and says, "Something is either altering our perceptions or our environment. If we can't trust our sensors, how can we determine which it is?"
Back to the source. Back to the source.
Perhaps back to the source, as the Raven said. What is the source?
Nevermore. Nevermore.
Maybe I'm putting too much stock in what the Raven is saying.
Big ears. Big ears.
Sorry.
And he's going to walk over to Paris. What do you think? If our sensors are telling us that it's real, if our eyes are telling it's real, but we know it cannot be real,
Come on, come on. You got this. You got this.
then it is real?
Walks like a duck, talks like a duck, then it's a duck, right?
Yes, although there are robot ducks and there can be holographic ducks and
All right.
computer duck simulations.
It's okay, Zed. It's an old Earth expression. It means
Mm.
if you think it's something, if it turns out to be something, then it is something, right?
So, what do your sensors say about this bird?
What do my sensors say about this bird, Jam?
Let's go ahead and roll a control science difficulty of 3.
Science.
And I'm sitting on a pile of threat, so I'm actually going to spend a couple of that threat to increase your complication range to a 17 to 20.
17 to 20. All right.
You did this to yourself, Paris.
Oh, I'm gonna continue doing this to myself because that's what I love to do.
Do it. It's drama. It adds to the drama.
Science. So all right, I'm gonna use the computer to scan bird. So it's at least one roll. How about we add 1 momentum to threat again to get those 2d4s back. Get the 4. I don't have any focuses that can apply. Like even improvisation is a bit too much of a stretch for me. So no.
Let's get weird.
Right.
You do
So
have a
that's
complication.
3.
You're succeeding, but with a complication. So,
But I can re-roll it.
you could re-roll it. It's up to you.
And I will re-roll it.
All
'cause,
right,
you know,
I respect that. I respect
I did
that.
use threat, so my bold science. Takes
you
effect.
know what? You know what? Drat. Foiled again, Game Master. Foiled again. Oh, that's phenomenal. This guy. Mac, that should max you guys. Or bring up to 5, I believe. Bring it back up to 5, which is fantastic. So, I have good news and I have bad news, Lieutenant Paris. What news would you like first?
Always the bad first.
All right. Well, you are reading that there is indeed a raven there. It's a raven. It's a physical raven. Now, that's the good news. It exists. You're not crazy. I mean, that's probably the good news. The bad news is that there is there's something inside the raven, and your sensors are reading like it is a like it's a singularity inside that raven that is just itching to get out. Just itching to get out.
So Zed, I've got good news, bad news. Bad news first. Well, it's a raven, of course, but there's a little quantum singularity in there, and yeah, I don't think it's gonna last long.
Ask the she-wolf. Nevermore. Nevermore.
What?
Singularity.
Sorry.
Can we project a containment field around the raven to contain the singularity?
You know what? That's not a bad idea. You might be able to do that.
Would that be done from the security station?
It would be.
It
And
would-
as you pivot over to look at the security station, you see something, well, maybe slightly disconcerting, but it kind of looks like maybe a dog or some kind of... Is that a wolf sitting by the security station, growling at you menacingly and trying to prevent you from getting to it? Well, I think it is.
Zed will look at the wolf and back at the raven and back and forth and just say, he'll ask the raven, did you say to ask the wolf?
She-wolf. She-wolf. Nevermore.
she-wolf.
Nevermore.
Um,
Now, to describe this wolf to you, it appears to be it's larger than what you might expect a wolf to be, maybe double in size, but it has almost these kind of feminine-like features. It looks like a she-wolf. It has these kind of soft kind of eyes. It almost looks motherly in this moment. And as this wolf, as she stares at you, you get this feeling like there's an intelligence inside of it. It is more than just a simple animal that has appeared on the bridge, and it's almost as though it's yearning for you to call out to it.
Oh. I'm Ensign Zed of the Federation Starship Ragnar. What is your name?
The wolf tilts its head to the side. One of its ears go up, one of its ears go down, as though it's almost confused by what you said. But as it opens its mouth, words emerge forth from it. A dark and beautiful victory. A feminine, almost sultry voice emanates out, and it says once again, a dark and beautiful victory. And with that, we're going to pivot back down to the brig, because that is where a lot of the action's happening, with this weird guy asking weird questions. But yeah, we last left off. He'd ask you other questions. I'm curious how you react to what the guy just said.
I need you to remind me. I got a little too into the Zed and Paris scene.
So he had been mentioning about how you should understand. You should know
Life and
what
death.
it's like,
Yeah.
life and death, and I am trying to do life and death, and the child Locke, he should not exist. He is the byproduct. I'll actually elaborate. He is the byproduct of the wrong choices being made, selfish choices being made. What is good for him does not matter. What is good for someone that should not and will not exist is insignificant.
Why? He exists right now.
But he shouldn't. And his existence has cost the lives of thousands. Tens of thousands. If you could go back and prevent the occupation of Bajor, if you could prevent millions of lives being lost at the cost of one, would you not make that choice for your people?
I don't know. I don't have the power to make that choice, so thankfully I don't have to think about it.
I do, Commander. You need only release me from this cage.
That's not my call to make.
But what if it was? What if you were left in command? Would you release me? And with this, you notice that the writing on the walls of his cell seems to be kind of glowing and also weeping. So they're tiny little driplets of water and moisture. And on the words behind him, you see these kind of crackle of what looks like tiny sparks, almost like a static shock. If you've ever touched something, you see that little flash. Looks like little pops along the walls. I say again, Commander, if it was your choice, what would you choose? And with that, we're going to pivot back to the holodeck, because that's always fun. And yeah, we pivot back over to the holodeck. You guys have managed to bandage up Krev. The girl is looking nervous, but hopeful. She has once again taken that small little model that looks like a representation of the cloaking device, and she's tucked it back into her clothing, just kind of wrapped it away, and she says, Are you able to move? The temple, it is not far from here. We can move there quickly.
I collect the guns.
You have three 9mm, and you also have an MP5, little submachine gun that they didn't get to use. So you got some firepower, actually. You got some firepower. You're looking pretty dandy.
I keep the bigger gun out. I tuck one of the pistols into my waistband, I guess.
Mhm.
and then I offer the other 2 pistols to Krev, like, or I'll give him at least one of them.
I'll take Krev takes both of them and he'll put them in the
Mhm.
he's wearing like a set of mechanics overalls or jumpsuit.
Mhm.
Grease stained obviously and blood stained now too. Yay.
Oh my.
Yay.
Um
Oh my.
so yeah, I'll take the 2 pistols that he proffers me.
Brilliant. And
I think I can walk.
I love it. I love it. And as you go to stand, your leg is a little bit weak in this moment. I mean, the flesh has been torn, the muscle's been torn away. I mean, the bone might even be broken, but you're a tough Tellarite. So you stand up, you grit, literally just through sheer force of will. You're gritting through the pain, Lieutenant Commander Krev. And the woman in front of you, as you look at her, Krev, and only you will see this, but for a moment, she doesn't look like the woman that you see, this kind of soft Asiatic kind of features that you see. Instead, she looks like a red-headed Caucasian woman, and you recognize her. You've seen this woman before, and then it's gone in that moment. And she says, "Please, please, we have to hurry. There's so little time. We must move quickly."
Krev, are you sure you're going to make it on that leg? We could leave you here, and I might be able to move faster.
Krev looks up, glares up at the captain and like stumps off.
This is
All right,
what
that's my answer.
what she looked like in that moment, just so everyone gets a quick picture, and then she's back to herself. "Please, we have to stop the legate. We have to stop Gannick. Oh, if we don't, the whole world will be in danger. Please, we must move quickly."
Yeah, take us to it.
And she leads you out into the pouring rain. There's another crack of thunder as lightning flashes across the sky. As the sky is illuminated above you, it doesn't look like a night sky should. Instead, you see this kind of orangey, misty kind of color. It almost looks like the Shackleton Expanse is in the sky above you. But she leads you down an alleyway. She leads you left, then right, then left, then right again, then down a small alleyway. She stops. You see some of those additional bird soldiers looking around, as though the entire city has been turned against you. Krev, this city, well, you didn't program this. This is all beyond you. But as you're moving, and you continue to move deeper and deeper into this city, the town starts to take on more and more of these Japanese kind of aesthetics. You start to see the more Japanese architecture, and you realize you're in maybe Little Japan or Little Osaka, as the name of the episode would call. In fact, you see a sign that says, "Welcome to Little Osaka." And as she goes down this very small, thin alleyway, she comes to a tiny little shop. And she knocks on the door, looks left and right, and the door slides open. There's no one on the other side, but as all of you step inside, you find yourself not inside a shop, but you find yourselves in what appears to be some kind of dungeon or cave. I'm going to go ahead and just get you guys over to this new map so that you can see what's going on. And let me grab your 2 tokens for yourselves. You find yourselves in this cave, and from somewhere deeper inside the cave, you hear what sounds like, well, even though the ship's acting weird and the computer's not acting quite normally, your tricorders, not your tricorders, but your comm badges are still functioning. The universal translator is still functioning. All right, and it sounds like Cardassian for a few moments, and then it switches, and you hear this angry, deep, masculine voice. "We shall be moving out. And as we move out, we shall take them by surprise. We shall destroy them tonight, and then the entire city shall be ours. Welcome, troops. Welcome, men, to our rising." You hear this whole crowd. Your other voices are like, "Yeah, we're gonna kill them all." And it sounds like a huge group of souls, a huge group of people is gathered in the chamber just beyond where you are and is in some sort of loud meeting. And as this is all going on, you hear this child's voice. He says, "Please, please let me go. Please, please. I just want to live. I just want to live." And you think you recognize that voice. That voice sounds an awful lot like, well, it sounds like the young Locke in this moment. It sounds like the young Locke. And I'm curious, what do you guys do in this moment?
Traso would move closer to see if you can get a look at what exactly is going on.
As you get closer, there is, imagine if you will, there's this large archway, and over the archway you see all of these different motifs that look like an amalgamation of like Federation panels. You see Cardassian ship panels. You see little, almost what look like computer screens, but they're all awkwardly and very like not in any sort of like logical way blended together to create this old ancient looking temple. And as you get closer, you're able to get to this large double door that's just ever so slightly ajar, because I think that's convenient. As you lean inside, you see this man, and you recognize him as being, well, he is indeed Cardassian. And he is wearing this kind of red, almost like priestly looking robe. And he is out before him is a very long Fu Manchu that comes down. He has this long beard as well, and he flips it like this. And he says, "Today is our Ascension Day. Welcome to forever." And on a stone slab in front of him is none other than a small child. But the child, well, doesn't look like Locke. Sounds like Locke, but it doesn't look like Locke. He looks a lot younger. It looks to be maybe a child of 6 or 7 years old, whereas Locke is at least 18, maybe 19 years old. But the child looks terrified. The child is currently chained to this altar, and there's a huge gathering of Birdmen and Cardassians and even a couple of Andorians. There's just this huge gathering of all these different species. You even see a couple Klingons, you see some Romulans, you see some everyone you can think of. You see this entire gathering. It's like a mix match, like a melting pot of all of these different species inside of the Alpha, Beta, and Delta quadrants. And what do you do with that information, Captain?
How is this room lit?
Torchlight. Super ominous.
This got real weird real quick.
Yeah. This no longer seems like a holo novel. This is clearly some sort of corrupted program.
Like, where did the Cardassians come from? Who's writing this?
Please, there's not much time. We have to get the heart. We have to get the heart to my boy. Please, you must. And she unveils the tiny little device. And that tiny little device no longer looks like a mini representation of the cloaking device. Now it looks like a stone heart that is slightly cracked in the middle. And impressed into that stone heart is another little tiny heart. And you kind of look at it for a moment, it almost looks like that tiny little heart is beating. Like the rock itself in the center is almost pulsating.
All right, listen, lady, we have played along with this so far, but like, what is going to happen if we put the heart on the boy?
Life will happen.
What do you think, Krev?
I mean,
If
obviously,
putting the heart on the boy doesn't stop that army, we're in some real trouble.
yeah. Well, I'm gonna run through that group real good, Cap.
Now the sacrifice shall commence. And he rises this dark, crooked ritual dagger above his head. The crowd,
Krev, give me your comm badge.
Starts to do this. They're like,
Comm badge.
Everyone's getting crazy.
Okay. Asba pulls off his comm badge, pops the panels off of both of them, the back panels off, and rewires them, and then attaches them together, and then goes, all right, everybody, cover your eyes, and then hucks it into the room because in about 3 seconds it's gonna flash.
Flashbang.
Yeah,
All right.
I'm essentially
roll
creating a flashbang
roll
out of.
me a control engineering difficulty of 2.
I'm gonna
Can
spend one of
Krev
our
help
Yes,
with good advice?
Absolutely.
Infiltration as a
100%. It's a stretch, but I'm going to allow it.
I have the value of mentor.
Well, the good news is you're succeeding. The bad news is there's a complication.
No.
And here's what the complication is. As the device travels into the room, the Fu Manchu with the dagger Cardassian raised high above his head, he sees it, and he says, "Intruders! They interlope upon the ritual!" And he covers his eyes, but everyone else is going to get flashed. So that's the complication, is the Fu Manchu Cardassian knows that it's coming. The 3 seconds pass. The entire room is ignited in light. You all are able to shield your eyes. You shield your eyes. You look to where the woman was standing, and she is gone. But Krev, you don't even know how it got there, but that heart, it's right in your hand, and it's kind of beating a little bit, like just pulsating ever so slightly. But with that, we're gonna pivot back to the bridge, where the good the good Ensign Zed and Lieutenant Paris are, well, they're having a time with some weird animals. It's like a freaking zoo on the bridge right now, which is a thing. But yeah, what's the plan? The wolf just looked at you, Ensign Zed, and said, "Dark and beautiful victory."
A dark and beautiful victory. I don't understand.
Wolf tilts its head to the side again.
Does this mean anything to anyone? He's asking everyone on the bridge, and he's looking at Lieutenant Paris.
Bronson has a phaser drawn. Lieutenant Shear looks like just wide-eyed bewilderment. And Lieutenant Paris, how do you look?
Oh, I'm slowly going down for my phaser, but she's looking this way, so I'm like,
Suggestions, anyone? Could this be a mass hallucination?
At this point, Zed, this is not a hallucination. I don't know how they're here, but that wolf and that bird are here.
The wolf exists, Lieutenant Paris. I'm going to give this to you for free, because I assume you would probably make a scan on it very quickly. Now, as I described, there appears to be a singularity inside of the Raven. This singularity appears to want to draw everything in. It's like a black hole. But there's also a singularity inside of the wolf as well. This is the antithesis. It's the opposite of that black hole. It is a white hole. And it appears like it wants to burst out and fill the room with light. Whereas the black hole inside the Raven wants to consume. The white hole inside of the room wants to fill it with energy, with life. She-wolf again. It's been sitting down, its paws in front of it, its head tilted to the side. Its back lifts up, and it takes 2 steps forward, not menacingly, not aggressively, but as though it's seeking to have the two of you understand. Dark and beautiful victory. Sacrifice. Sacrifice.
Dark and beautiful victory. Sacrifice.
Nevermore. Nevermore.
Well, I did take a course on Earth mythology, and if I seem to recall, the she-wolf. Well, there was a she-wolf that that birthed or that raised the Romulus and Remus, who I believe they founded Rome. Correct? So this could
That's
be
true.
birth of the beginning. The raven could be is a scavenger that eats from the dead. Perhaps it is death.
Bad dog. Bad dog. Not the doggo. Not the doggo. Nevermore. Nevermore.
Perhaps these are two opposing forces.
Please.
Sort of a yin or a yang, perhaps?
Well, clearly, oh my god. Well, where the Raven, my scans clearly say there's a black hole, or is a black hole. The wolf is a white hole. So opposing sides of the same coin, yeah, type of situation going on here, but still.
Yes. Perhaps we still do not have enough information to come to a conclusion.
The wolf looks from you two up at the raven, snarls for a moment, growling deep and low. Seek only to protect the young. And with that, we're going to pivot back down to the brig, where, well, it's been an interesting conversation, Commander Ajay, and I'm curious, where do you want to go from here? What's the plan, Ajay?
You asked me if I would let you out if it were up to me. The answer is no. Your words tell me you're meddling in things we aren't meant to. You're trying to touch the realm of the prophets or the pirates.
Don't understand, Commander. I'm not trying to meddle. I'm trying to undo the meddling. If you saw what's become of my home, of my timeline, then you would understand the decisions I am making. This is about protecting those that I love.
You can't change the past.
Yes, you can.
Fine, then you shouldn't.
Very well, Commander. I hope you enjoy your command. And with that, the Andorian pivots, walks back, sits down on the bench, swings his legs up and over, lays down, and folds his hands over his sternum. One by one they came to play. 2 by 2 they died today. So much to see, so much to do, so much death because of you. And with that, we're going to pivot back over to, well, to the dungeon. And in the dungeon, the entire dungeon begins to shake. The walls begin to crumble and fall. And everything starts to seem like the entire world that you exist in is starting to, well, it's starting to discorporate. It's starting to fall apart. You start to see these flashes of the holodeck, but as things start to fall, a brick hits the captain in the shoulder. It hurts. You take 2 points of stress. And you know that if you don't get out of here quickly, this place is going to kill you. Captain, what do you do?
Captain's gonna look at Krev, look down at his injury, look at the thing in his hands, trade him real quick for the MP5. So essentially just grab the heart and then hand him the gun, and then break into a sprint for the boy.
Krev
Yeah.
Krev will cover him.
And
Suppressing fire!
And as Karev brings both pistols up, you watch as this crowd of all of these different people and all of these different species, they start to spin, but as they spin, you notice that their faces are mottled and pockmarked. They look more akin to the undead than they do to actual people, and they start to moan and cry and lunge towards you. Even their Cardassian with the Fu Manchu, he looks like he is almost like a lich. He brings the dagger up and goes to stab at the captain as Lieutenant Krev starts blasting. The captain is ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta. Watches bullets rip through the crowd, cutting a wide swath as you make your way up to this altar. The child turns to face you, Captain Traso, and as he turns to face you, you recognize his eyes. This looks like a young Jeffrey Locke. As you get up to it, we're going to make a very important roll, Captain. I need you to roll me a fitness security to get to the boy before the zombie man stabs him with the ritual dagger. You know all that momentum, that thread I've been sitting on? Oh, it's going to get spent. Your complication range is a 15 to 20.
Jeez.
And your difficulty is a 3.
Cool. I'm going to spend my determination as know when to hold them, know when to fold them.
Oh, that's a good use. That is a great use. I love that.
I will pick up the two additional, so the 2 automatic successes.
Mm-hmm.
And then I will spend all 5 of our momentum for the extra 2 dice to roll. So I'm rolling 4 dice.
You already have 2 successes. You just need 1 more.
Yep.
So there is a slow motion scene as Captain Traso is running through the crowd. Imagine if you've ever seen the original Doom poster from like the actual Doom, and the guy's like on top of the crowd of like those demons. That's what Captain Trace looks like running through this crowd. Behind him, Krev is just suppressing fire. Zombies are being just torn apart, ripped apart, and you lunge forward, diving almost, Captain. One hand with like the machine gun, just rat-tat-tat-tat-tat. And go ahead.
I
and make
do
the
not
roll.
think that I have an available focus, so I'm just going to roll it. That's one
complication.
One complication.
But that is a success. Now here's the complication, Traso. As you lunge forward,
Yeah.
your hand,
I get my determination back.
you drop your MP5 because you see that you're not going to make it in time. So you lunge forward, grabbing towards the dagger. So you grab towards the dagger, you grab onto the blade, shoving it aside, but it cuts into your hand and it stings. It stings more than a cut should. It seems to cut you to your very soul, is how much this hurts. But as you lunge forward, you place the heart on top of the small child. There is this single tone, a kind of dong, and the entire room goes silent. Buildings stop falling. The room stops shaking. And sitting in front of you is the boy. Looks to be no more than maybe 5 or 6. Maybe now you understand. Maybe now you can begin to seek. Maybe now? And with that, room flutters for a moment. The program ends. And you find yourself standing inside of the holodeck. And I'm going to go ahead and just pivot you guys over there. Your wounds are still present. You feel a little tired. And as you look down at your hand, you see that you're cut. There's a kind of like, for a moment, looks like there's a bit of energy. Almost like you're looking into like a pool of water in your cut. And it's kind of phasing there for a moment, and you like clench your fist, and then you see nothing but blood where it was.
I move to the panel and immediately like medical emergency in a holodeck 2 because we don't have comm badges anymore. So
And with that,
I might have blown them up.
we're going to pivot back over to the bridge. On the bridge, there is a crack of thunder, and the bridge begins to shake. The raven up there starts to go, never! But before it can speak, the she-wolf turns and lunges up towards it, grabbing it in its maw, lands on the ground and begins to shake it violently. You can hear this sickening, angry, bestial growling. The raven is squawk, never squawk, squawk. And the wolf drops the dead raven to the floor. Turning back to you, it nods its head, and there is a flash. The entire room is filled with white light. And then you find yourselves on the bridge, as though these creatures never existed. There is a beep at your comm badge, Ensign Zed. It's the captain asking for help.
Captain Traso.
Zed, we're in holodeck 2. Our comm badges are lost. I need a medical team here. Krev's been wounded.
Yes, Captain. Right away.
Moments later, as if on cue, the doors of the holodeck open and a security and medical team arrive. Captain, we're sorry that we're late. It's like this place. Never mind. Oh, gods, you're both injured. Just stay calm. We'll take care of it. And with that, we have the captain, Lieutenant Commander Krev are taken to the medical. Lieutenant Paris and Zed, you take a moment to check. The ship's well underway of being repaired. And I think our final scene, I think the captain might call a bridge meeting, a command staff meeting after these events.
But in sickbay.
Yeah,
while we're
probably
getting patched
in
up.
sickbay. I think
Yeah,
that
that'd be
would
cool.
that would be good. So everyone is called down to sickbay. And if you give me just a moment, I'm gonna grab everyone, bring you over. The Dander are no longer there, so let me get them off that. But Commander Ajay, and go ahead and take the
Dander.
scene. Take the scene, everybody. I'm just gonna get you guys onto the map.
Alrighty, well, report.
Go ahead, Zed.
Well, you, if you'll forgive me, Captain, I'm not quite certain what happened. The the Ragnar at first appeared to encounter atmospheric conditions within the void of space, a thunderstorm, rain upon the screen, and then lightning struck the ship, and all sorts of damage occurred. We were unable to contact you. Teams sent to holodeck 2 were unable to locate it, as if the actual quarters had changed. And upon the bridge, 2 creatures manifested, an earth raven and an earth she-wolf. It was quite confusing, Captain.
Sounds like. I hear the Deck 6 disappeared.
Among other strange phenomena, sir.
Indeed, it would appear that the whole deck with the holodeck seems to just vanish.
Well, we had some sort of strange experience with the holodeck also. As you can see, the safeties, as usual, failed. No, not as usual. Just safeties failed. But also, we ran through some sort of strange holo program. I expect Krev will have somebody trying to track that down. But
Yeah, that was
see if we can.
That was a weird one.
If I can get, is that if you can do a security sweep of all the logs of who's used that holodeck ever? We'll see if there's any remnants of that program. Also, Doctor, the wound in my hand, I don't know, just before the holodeck shut off, it looked like some sort of energy went into my hand. If you just give me an extra.
I'll do a few
thorough-
extra scans, of course.
Appreciate it.
Captain, the entities on the bridge, it was almost as if they were trying to tell us something. One, the Raven, appeared to be some sort of quantum singularity, drawing matter and energy into it. The other, the she-wolf, had some sort of opposite singularity, with energy and coming out of it. And it was as if the two were in struggle with one another, and the she-wolf prevailed. And she said something before she confronted the raven. She said, "A dark and beautiful victory." I don't know what that means.
Sounds like you had some sort of spiritual run-in with a manifestation of good and evil, Zed. Maybe it's up to you to figure out what it means.
If anything, the second the she-wolf attacked and destroyed the raven, the events stopped. And from understanding that probably that same moment you ended your adventure.
It was puzzling, to say the least.
Yeah, who was that woman?
Who was the boy?
She turned into someone familiar, a redheaded, I think, human female. And
Should
at
ring
one
some
point,
bells for some people.
and at
Did
one
she-
point, what?
Sorry, Krev. Did she look like what's her name? Eva Cole, the admiral's deceased
Wife?
wife?
It's hard to say. One human looks like the other to me.
Would you say that perhaps the boy could have been Locke,
I
the
mean, he
young one, not the
bore a-
admiral?
bore a stunning resemblance to him if he wasn't just a manifestation of a childhood version of that man. Yeah.
Well, I missed all of this excitement because our guest in the bridge finally deigned to speak with someone, but would only speak with me.
Ooh, that's a dangerous precedent.
Well,
I
if
assume
it
you met with
makes-
him?
I did. And he claims, Captain, if I'm correctly interpreting some of the things he said, he's basically claiming that he's traveled backwards in time or through some rift in space, in the space-time continuum,
For what purpose?
to prevent some disaster, but he didn't like some of the answers I gave him to his questions and won't talk to me further.
Doctor, maybe we need to discuss putting him into cryogenic stasis. We have the facilities aboard, and I'm beginning to think that he may be more desperate than we give him credit for.
Do
I
you think
believe
he's
you're...
behind? Do you think he's behind this strange phenomenon?
I don't know, but I don't like a man with that kind of engineering knowledge to be sitting in my brig getting more and more desperate.
Anything, at least his story tracks with the events up to now. Both him and the boy were found next to the timeshare. Makes sense that they're from a different timeline, future, past.
Certainly, Mr. Patterson, you're welcome to look into that, but as far as I'm concerned, this is the timeline I'm from.
This is
So
the
whether
timeline
he's
we're
from a different timeline or not, I have a responsibility to the crew and to Starfleet to defend the timeline as I know it. And if that means I have to keep that man under ice, then that's maybe what I will do.
I was just gonna say, sir, that's actually what I think is the proper course at this point.
Also, I don't know if you noticed, Cap, but at one point, that weird heart thing, it looked like the cloaking device.
Yeah, I saw that. I kind of assumed the program was just using recent sensor logs to manifest material for the holonovel, but maybe it's more significant than that. I assume you'll have somebody go over that program with a fine-tooth comb.
Absolutely. It'll be me.
Doctor, look into the cryogenic solution.
Yes, of
Let me know your
course.
recommendations. I'll leave the final decision in your hands. As the doctor, I think you should have final say as to what happens to your patient. What I will tell you is that if we decide not to freeze him, we are turning the ship around and heading back to Starbase 123, because I don't trust him to stay contained much longer. If what he says
Unless
is indeed what he believes.
unless I find that it will kill him or negatively affect him in a long-term manner, I will certainly agree with freezing him.
Well then, does anybody else have anything they want to bring up now?
On a side note, I just wanted to say that Zed performed even better than I did on my first emergency situation on the ship.
Ed
Well, Mr. Zed?
blushes. I cannot take credit, Captain. The crew operated very efficiently.
Well, I will say that I have a knack for putting the right people in the right places, Mr. Zed. That includes you.
Thank you, Captain.
In the meantime, I gotta go find out whether or not this has affected my tennis swing. Because I'm telling you, Krev, I'm not doing another day of work in that garage.
What? But Cap, the Edsel's still in pieces.
And I think with the butt cap, the Edsel steer in pieces, I think that's a great moment to pivot out of the medical bay. And as we zoom out of the medical bay, we travel through the ship, and we come to a small private room, not anything luxurious like a command staff private quarters, but a small but appointed room where we see the young Locke sitting on the end of his bed, and he's humming a tune that, if Commander Ajay, you were hearing it, you would recognize it. It's the same tune, a kind of monotonous little melody that the Andorian had hummed to himself or sang. But in his hand, he is holding what looks to be a kind of almost half crumpled looking picture that he has in front of him. And on the picture, as the camera zooms around to what he's looking at, you see it looks like a family photo. And you see a young Locke, the young Jeffrey Locke. We see the Admiral Locke, and then we also see his mother, Shiva Mani. But as he looks at it, watches a single tear falls down his cheek. As it strikes the picture, you watch as one by one the images on the picture seem to phase in and out of existence. And that, my friends, is where we'll end today's session. Fantastic job, everybody.
Very fun.
Wow.
Top notch.
I feel foreshadowing.
That was crazy.
That was really good.
That was a great.
You guys did a great job. Absolutely fantastic job. And I cannot thank this crew enough for allowing me to spin a crazy tale with them. I'm very excited. I think you guys did a great job. I hope it was gripping for you all. I had an absolute blast, and I told you, Ensign Zed. I told you I was talking to Ensign Zed before the session. I was like, I'm not exactly sure what to do with Zed in Paris this session, because I wanted it to be, this holodeck thing, and there's always the holodeck problem, on any sort of Star Trek. So a little bit of that. But I was very, very excited to see how you guys interacted, and I hope it played how you saw everything was kind of interacting with each other. But I thought everyone did a great job, and I just want to say thank you to the crew. But next episode will be entitled Ode to a Forlorn Brooder. It's in German, so Ode to a Lost Brother. And that will be next session, and it's going to be an away mission. Featuring featuring the chief engineer, because it's going to be a very important thing. So I'm pretty excited about that one. That's going to be episode 7. And we've got 4 more episodes till the season finale. And strong foreshadowing, we may have a special guest during episode 8 or 9. I just want to give you guys a heads up. I'm not going to say who. It's not completely guaranteed yet, but I've been in talks with them. Their agent is very fickle about their schedule, but I'm trying to get them in. And she, spoiler, she may be able to attend. It may just be a recording, but she may be here live with us as well. So I'm hoping we can find a time that works for her and the rest of us. I'm very excited. But to you all, I always like to say, any final thoughts, questions, comments, or concerns before we wrap up today's episode?
Amazing.
No, I just want to say good game, guys. Like that was
Oh
Yeah.
that was a lot of fun.
You guys did fantastic as always. And as I always say at the end of every session, thank you to the players for playing. Thank you to the viewers for viewing. Happy gaming, everybody. We will catch you next week for session 7 of Star Trek Valhalla. Be well and be safe out there. Cheers.